his face.
Yes. His whole body in the dishwasher.
Asperger's is a neurological disability that manifests itself usually in social elements. People with Asperger's tend to have symptoms similar both to ADD and obsessive compulsive disorder, along with, to quote some people I know, not having a filter and not being able to understand social cues.
Asperger's is being different and not really caring that you're different and just wanting it to be okay. It's living in your own world.
Asperger's is the inability to understand or empathize with other people and what they're doing, mostly in a social environment.
Channeling, I found that the best way to do it is to channel, I don't want to say channel my energy, but channel my weirdness into ways that are productive or at least interesting. One of the big things is that small talk to an Aspie, the very concept of small talk, makes no sense. I understand intellectually that it's how two people or a group of people break the ice and become comfortable with one another, but that's nonsensical to me. And so the way I deal with that is I make seemingly random comments. For example, there's a duck on your head. There's not only a lack of understanding on the part of the general public like there was with autism 60 years ago, it doesn't help that Aspies kind of like to mess with people. We get that we're not normal, and what we want is not to be normal, it's to be okay. We want other people to be okay with the fact that we're not normal. So some of what we do, or at least some of what I and other Aspies I know do, is sometimes we're a little odd on purpose. Not in a bad way, just in a kind of poking at people way, trying to see what kind of responses we do get, because Aspies in general, I include myself in this, really don't understand how normal people work or think or process information. And so often an Aspie doing something that's particularly odd or out of place is really the Aspie trying to poke at the system and go, what kind of reaction am I going to get here?
A lot of people complain about things like, oh, my husband forgets my birthday, or oh, my husband looks at other women, or whatever. And when I hear people saying these things, I just don't understand. Because, my husband might forget, to eat or sleep, but he'll never forget anything about me. He has his challenges and his fun things to deal with, like the fact that he walks around with stuff on his head, even when there's company over, whenever, it doesn't really matter. He doesn't really care how he looks to anybody else.
It was difficult. Austin didn't fit in. There were times when he was abused by his peers. One time I picked him up from school and his glasses were askew, and it's because some kids at lunch had decided that they were going to rough him up a bit, and so I dealt with things like that, friends who would invite him over and then maybe not include him in things, in fact more exclude him or make him to be the brunt of the jokes. We had that in middle school where it actually became an issue with the school system, and there were kids that ended up being suspended from school because of an incident where Austin became the brunt of the incident, and was essentially ridiculed and abused, and didn't understand, frankly, the relationships involved. It was difficult. He always knew that things weren't quite right, and he knew that we were trying our best to find out what we could do to help him, and it didn't matter what kind of doctor we took him to, what age he was when we took him to that doctor. The doctors essentially would say to me, well, he's odd, or he's weird, or he's different, but there's nothing the matter with him, there's nothing wrong with him.
I can't say that I grew up with Asperger's because I didn't know I had Asperger's. I was diagnosed when I was 19. So rather than growing up with a particular challenge, disability, however PC you want to get about it, I instead grew up knowing or somehow sensing that I was different, abnormal, somehow wrong. And that was a challenge. That was, it's very difficult to be social or even be a teenager when your brain doesn't work the same way as anybody else's.
He was strange. He spent a lot of his time thinking about things that people don't normally think about, like how to take over the world. But he was the most interesting person I met, which is why I stuck with him for so long. I mean, he was my best friend because he always had new insight into various questions. He would give me the honest answer, even if I didn't feel like I wanted to hear it.
I can't imagine anything different. Asperger's isn't something that was thrust upon me. Asperger's is something that I am.